Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for our session today on Mojix and BarTender solution for retail. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to joining us. We have a great session today. Just as a reminder, our session starts now. At the top of the hour, we will be presenting in English today, and this webinar will be recorded. Everybody will receive a link following the webinar with a link to the recording. We'll also be sharing this out on our YouTube channel and on our website. We will be using the Q&A function today. And so submit your questions via the Q&A. My name is Colby Kavanaugh. I'm moderating our webinar today. I am the head of marketing for Siegel, and we have some great presenters who will be joining us as well. So our agenda today, we're going to do some introductions and welcome. We're going to jump into understanding retail challenges in the digital era. Very timely, considering we are well into the retail season right now. We'll talk about the power of item level visibility. We'll talk about digital product passports and the future of transparency and trust. And then we'll give some tips and tricks on getting started and next steps. So with that, let me introduce you to our fabulous presenters today. We have Bart DeMonk, who is an industry thought leader, presenter, consultant, has had over 30 years experience in the supply chain. Bart, thank you so much for joining us. We have Chris Teague, who is the head of industry solutions for Siegel. He works with some of our biggest customers here at Siegel on developing solutions for retail. And then Sharon Lee, who is our senior manager of product management, who helps us here at Siegel in terms of planning our product roadmap and how we are thinking about innovation with our product set. So welcome to our panelists. Thank you so much for being here. And Bart, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Thank you very much, Colby, and great to see everyone online here. This is a big number you see on the screen here, $74.4 billion. That was the expected online Black Friday sales for 2024, up 5% year over year. And it's really timely as we just had Black Friday just a few days ago. We obviously had Cyber Monday yesterday, and sales keep on going. Even today is a big day for online sales. Now, it's incredible to see how big that number has become, especially if we think that Black Friday used to be a purely US thing. Actually, this year, if you don't know, it's the 100th anniversary of Black Friday. Black Friday was started in 1924 by Macy's right after the Macy's parade to increase sales for retail. And Black Friday, the name Black Friday came from, that's when the retailers went from red into the black, becoming profitable. And then obviously now it's become more of a synonym with both kind of retail sales and online retail sales, with newer things like Cyber Monday. And Cyber Monday this year at its 20th anniversary and keeps growing, and now has even become larger than Black Friday itself. So what you see is in the US, Black Friday sales hit $10.8 billion. I think it's the first time that it actually went over 10 billion, which is an incredible feat. And what we're seeing is sales go as high, like on a Cyber Monday. I think I saw the stats, $11.2 million of online sales each and every second. A blink of an eye, you see $20 million of sales going through that has to hit your supply chain and has to get out there. And so a lot of people actually planning a lot of their purchases around Black Friday or the Black Friday period. We'll talk a little bit about that, how that's evolving as well. And we still see a lot of people purchasing in store on Black Friday as well. So it's not just online, it's growing more online, but we still see a lot of people going to stores and continuing to buy in the store. And then what we're also seeing is some other advances as well, some other trends in there as well in the numbers. Is one, we see that really the sales isn't just on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but we see that period continuously expanding. We have seen retailers that started beginning of November already with their Black Friday sales. I think most of them started at least 2 weeks before the actual Black Friday date. But obviously, I think now we have new words like Cyber 5 is one of those new terms. Instead of just Black Friday, it's the 5 days around Black Friday that are being calculated by some of the folks doing the numbers. But what you're seeing here is really Black Friday is a big number. Cyber Monday expected even larger. I think we're probably going to have even exceeded that $13.2 billion, probably more likely to be somewhere around $13.8 billion, so massive numbers. And we continue to see that growth. Now, there are some other trends with that as well. Like I said, one of them is that that period becomes longer and longer, where it's not just that single day shopping, but over a longer period of time. We're also seeing that consumers are more concerned about things like sustainability, not just the product and the packaging, but also how it is being delivered. We see a lot newer in things like online shopping with live stream shopping. And then I would say customer experience and customer satisfaction has always been very important, but we continue to see an increasing importance and focus on that customer service. And so it's not just, this period, right, where we're seeing these huge impacts on retail and retail supply chains, but we're really seeing it throughout the year with all these different holidays where we see these huge surges. And obviously, the effect of that is that up to the holiday, you see these huge surge in deliveries, but then you're also seeing that right after the holidays or during the holidays, we see some delays there as well. And so all these things have huge impacts on organizations. And so you're asking with all of that, what could possibly go wrong, right? If you look between the retail being able to support the consumer and the consumer getting what they want from either in-store sales or online. And supply chains have become even more complex. They've always been complex because you're starting with raw materials that then go to a manufacturing location, go to a DC or warehouse that then go to a store and finally go to the customer and the consumer. And all of that has to be in sync. And it's always going faster and faster. And it's also going more global. When I started in supply chain about 30 years ago, a lot of our supply chains was very regional. A lot of raw materials came from regional suppliers. Now they're coming from far, far away, which also means they're more also sensitive to a lot of the disruptions. And so nowadays you have to do more with less, with labor shortages, with high turnover of labor, with continuously faster delivery times. And we have a lot more uncertainty and disruptions in the supply chains as well. If we just see lately with all the new regulations, where we're seeing things that are happening with weather events as well. And then on top of that, we're seeing that some of the older technologies might not be able to keep up with the speed at which supply chains work today. And then obviously you have the whole part that there's uncertainty around how consumers are consuming it and where they're going to buy products. They're going to get it in the store, they're going to buy it online, get it delivered at the house, or pick it up in the store, pick it up curbside. And so companies need to do a lot better job in demand forecasting as well. And so, it's a little bit like for those of you who remember Lucille Ball, this skit that they did, and this was shown, I believe it was in August 15 of 1952, so more than 70 years ago, where it started with the production line going very, very slow with the chocolates. And then as it started up, all of a sudden it completely went out of control. And that's what sometimes happens with supply chain. The other importance of this, picture that you see here, it's not just because it's funny or it shows complexity, but this was a real company. This was See's Chocolate, which was started in 1921. So actually 3 years before the first ever Black Friday. And with everything that happened since then, with all the different disruptions in supply chains, this company, after more than 100 years, is still in business, still is beating all these disruptions into supply chain to continue working and to grow their company. Now, the other part is, why is it so important to really get that product out there to your customer? Well, it's a lot easier to keep customers and continue selling and reselling to existing customer base than having to go and acquire a new customer base, because there are stats out there that say if you miss one delivery to a consumer, they'll never order from you again. And so that cost of customer acquisition is so high, it's very important for retailers to be able to do it at the right way. And why are labels so important? I know labels, maybe some people say, well, it's not that sexy. Everyone's looking at things like tags, but labels are really the lifeblood of supply chains, being able to look at what product is in inventory, being able to, you know, identify products, understanding where it comes from. And we're seeing labels have expanded over the years where there's a lot more information, a lot more real-time information that can be gotten from the labels. But at the same time, we're seeing labels also being used to the consumer, where consumer can use through QR codes and others get a lot more information about the supply chain and even the life of that product in the supply chain. And that's really why it becomes so important for companies to use technologies like visibility and others to continue to have control over the supply chain with all that complexity, with all of the disruptions that are out there, to in the end be able to provide that customer satisfaction at the end of it. You order a product and you get it, and that product is intact, there's no damage, you get it on time, and that's how supply chains continue working. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris now, who's going to talk to you about really item level visibility and what that means.
Thank you, Bart. Yep, those are some incredible numbers, and you know, you can really see the complexity in those supply chains. You can see, you know, what's needed there for whether it's technology or labeling or you know, other technologies to power this. But when we look at the solutions that we implement for our customers, you know, what it really is item level visibility, giving retailers that that visibility at the item level. So, you know, when we look at what item level visibility does and how it works, but what's really driving item level visibility, and there's a couple of major trends. There's more than this, of course, but these major trends, right, with growth of omni-channel retail. So, you know, as Bart mentioned, buy online, pick up in store, or curbside pickup, or ship from DC, ship from store, you know, and that really is a growing force, and it's always been growing. I think that's not news to everyone. But what's important there is the customer satisfaction, right? People want same day delivery. They want to make sure that that product, when they go and pick it up in store, is actually in store, because that drives you know, drives that customer satisfaction. So, you know, the other trend that we're seeing is like changing customer and consumer demands, right, around transparency and ethical sourcing and sustainability and things like that. So item level visibility gives that visibility into the full product life cycle, and it in turn is driving compliance, driving regulation, which, you know, allows you customers to comply with. So, you know, apart from that, as Bart mentioned, there's all those supply chain disruptions from the weather to pandemic to geopolitical tensions and you know, shortage of labor as well. So what is item level visibility? Well, really, item level visibility, it transforms what today in retail is a very static, error-prone way of doing inventory to a dynamic, data-driven function, right? Being able to have visibility into your inventory at real time, right? So being able to track movement, so whether it's from a DC, from a factory to a DC, to the DC to the store, but also within a retail location, right? So being able to see, you know, do I have 5 in the back and one in the sales floor, or do I have 5 on the sales floor, which I can sell, right? So it's very important to see that movement of product. Item level visibility is also about unique identifiers, right? Serialized data that identifies the individual product. It is integration across the supply chain, right? So you want to be able to see it from at least from the factory all the way back to the retail environment, but even further upstream with the raw material, right? So, you know, especially when we talk about digital product passports, that raw material sourcing becomes much more important as well. So, you know, when we look at the contrast between the current state, you know, where everything is tracked in bulk or SKU quantity level, maybe a pallet level, to item level visibility, where you have much more granular data. You can make much better informed decisions and improve those operational efficiencies, including labor and throughput as well. So the Seagull solutions really leverage all of this to provide the solutions to retail specific solutions and maximize the operational and strategic value here. So what are those operational and strategic value drivers that we solve for? So operationally, obviously, on a day-to-day in a day-to-day scenario, obviously you want your inventory optimized, right? So being able to see, am I overstocked? Am I understocked? Am I going to run out of a particular product in a particular location? um, process accuracy. So making sure when I do that receiving at the store, it said there was 10 items in there. I want to make sure I count 10 items, right? Rather than today with the barcode, you'll scan in the box. Who knows what was in the box, right? As it arrived at the DC or the store. Loss prevention, very important. Um, for many reasons, but mainly because once you lose an item through shrink or theft or other types of shrink, then you can no longer sell that item, right? So you want to be able to track that item as it moves through, potentially unauthorized. Did it go out the back door? Did it go out the front door without being sold first? So very important that that is tracked so that then you can restock and make sure that that item is available for sale, right? Faster returns. So being able to be able to really pick up, at the item level, make sure that the returns are authentic, right? By scanning that item level data and seeing its life cycle, but also reducing the reliance on manual labor for time saving. So all of these processes really start to get automated when you have the real-time level visibility. So these kind of feed into really some of the strategic goals. So, the C-level executives and the VPs at retail, this is really what they're thinking about: customer experience, right? So when I walk into a store and I've ordered something for pickup and it's not there, I'm going to give up and go somewhere else and probably will never shop there again, right? It's too much of a hassle. They made me go all the way to this store and it wasn't available. So giving that item level visibility, it enhances the customer experience. Supply chain transparency, being able to show that full life cycle of the product, builds trust with everyone along that supply chain, but especially with the consumer. The data-driven decisions. Of course, once you have that item level visibility, I can see what's in my supply chain at any one time in real time and make decisions based on that data. Brand protection. So ensure authenticity. So I mentioned that for returns, but also for gray market, right? So is it being sold off the back of the truck for a lower price? I can look at those items and say, hey, they came through this way in my supply chain. So there's obviously a gap there that I need to fill. And then the sustainability goals. So a lot of companies today have those environmental and social governance rules in place, but this is helping you to track that waste reduction and recycling as well, for example. So, when we look at all of our customers, and Periolis is a great use case. They're a great partner of ours, but they're also a great beneficiary of the Cyber Monday and Black Friday sales. They have huge increases in volume, and they have a fairly complex supply chain, right? But mainly because the complexity comes with that they'll ship from DCs, they'll ship from stores, they'll do buy online, pick up in store, and so they need to have that inventory very clearly articulated across the supply chain. So what implementing item level visibility at Periolis has given them a 98% accuracy on their inventory and the inventory location all through the supply chain. Another important factor here is that they have decreased the not on shelf but in stock number from 25% to 1%. So that results in a conversion. So that means if I walk into a store and the store has 10 of the item I want, but they're all in the back room and it's busy, it's Black Friday, I am not going to wait around and try and talk to someone. I'm going to walk straight back out, right? And just assume that they didn't have it. And so those with the item level visibility that they're doing here with RFID, they're able to do those cycle counts not twice a year, but weekly, and even more often during Cyber Monday and Black Friday. They're doing actually daily. All right, so when we look at the trends again, what are the trends that we're seeing that are driving item level visibility? And I mentioned the changing customer behavior and demands, right? And so that brings us to transparency in the supply chain. So every product has a story. This is the way we look at it. And that really answers the question of what is a digital product passport? And it is that story. It's a digital identification system for products, stores key data about their life cycle, but it really tells the story. Where was it produced? Is it authentic? Was it produced with, ethical labor? And so all of those things are very, very important to customers today. I don't think I buy anything today without looking at a label, making sure I know where it comes from. And those digital product passports are an enhanced version of that. So there is some regulatory context here, especially in the EU, where there's the EU Green Deal and some uh, compliance needs around a digital product passport for textiles, so especially in the retail environment. But it really enhances the traceability. So all of that upstream data that we talked about is being added to that digital product passport. It provides all of the stakeholders, whether it's the manufacturers and the retailers or the consumers, information about the transparency, about the origin of the materials, and as well as the care instructions. And it does support that compliance. But it also, by supporting that compliance, it's promoting the recycling and the reuse of those materials that go into manufacture the goods. So, digital product passports should not just be a cost center. It should be driving not only sustainability, but profits as well. This is how we look at it, is that digital product passports, yes, it's a compliance ask from regulatory bodies, but you can turn this into a profit center, right? So for business, meeting those compliance regulations at a lower cost, right? This is what our solutions provide, an easy way to do it at low cost to provide that data into those digital product passports. But it also allows you to turn that compliance into a strategic advantage by optimizing the process. Having item level visibility, again, is optimizing process here. So for consumers, what does it give the consumers? Really choice, right? Access to that transparent information, product origins, materials, and sustainability. But in the end, what does that do? It boosts the trust in the brand. So loyalty becomes a very important factor here. And of course, not to forget, it is beneficial to the environment, right? It's encouraging the circular production models, and it's encouraging the reuse, repair, and recycling, because you're giving that transparency to the customers, and they're going to make that choice of which product to buy based on the data that you're sharing with them. So what are the key components of a digital product passport today? So we know there's a unique identifier, and it needs to be compliant with global standards. And the global standards that reference are serialized data, right? So item level data. So, but the carrier can be whatever you choose. It could be a barcode 1D or 2D. It could be an RFID EPC, or it could be an NFC. Most mobile phones, smartphones today can read a QR code on an NFC. So unique identifiers is number one. Getting your labeling right. That really is the important piece. Decentralized data management, very important, because the supply chains are complex, right? That data is not coming from the retailer's ERP now. It's coming from the growers, it's coming from the manufacturer, it's coming from the transporter and distribution as well. So all of that data is decentralized today, and the digital product passport on the Seagull solution really brings all that data together. So the third part is all of the data, right, that we're collecting from all of those decentralized parties to the supply chain. So whether it's the weaving process or the dyeing process, or even what the recyclability of that material is, all of that data gets added from each of those supply chain parties into the digital product passport. So, like we said, it's not just compliance, it's also a competitive advantage, right? So the way we see it is that it is a growth driver for brands, right? So again, to repeat some of those points, but the enhanced operational efficiency there that you're getting, streamlined quality and safety related recalls. So if you have item level visibility in your supply chain, if you have an issue with a product that needs to be recalled, you can trace it all the way back to the raw material potentially, in a very streamlined manner and very quickly. Fraud prevention, we mentioned the gray market, so that very important topic especially in the luxury retail space where there's a lot of fraudulent product in the supply chain, and those unique IDs are providing a way out of to measure that and to ensure that those products are authentic. Elevated consumer engagement. So we talked about that. You're really transforming a product into a storefront, right? Into a direct-to-consumer channel. So if you have a QR code on the label that the user can scan, you've suddenly captured that customer again after the sale, right? So very important, I think, that the competitive advantage there and how to turn it into profit is expanding on that consumer engagement piece. So future-proofing, of course, all of those regulations are ever changing, and we know consumer demands are changing. So the Seagull solution provides all of these features. So let's look at a couple of examples. This is Cartier from the Richemont Group. This is an end-to-end supply chain where the end goal is for the brand Cartier, who manufacture a very expensive perfume, to provide a digital product passport to the end user. And it's not just for compliance, right? When you think about these luxury companies, it really runs on exclusivity. It runs on authenticity. And so what the solution here is showing is that the Peregrina seed that they use to create the oil is a very exclusive oil seed that's produced in only one location in Saudi Arabia. And these farmers are, they're not high tech. I think they today use a mobile phone, but that's about all the tech they have. And so they're using that to do the harvesting. They're using our solution to signify and notate which field or which trees it's coming from. And then as that gets transformed into a virgin oil and then a winterized oil, and then finally into a very expensive perfume that's sold, the consumer has visibility all the way through the supply chain, right? All the way back to that harvest event, and they really can meet the farmer at that point. So this is a great example of why digital product passports, not just for compliance, but really talking to the consumer engagement piece. We have another example here who are using digital product passport. This is Farm Rio, or Farm, as some of you might know. This is a fashion retailer. They are based in Brazil, but they have a huge wholesale business in the European Union, and so they need to comply with the digital product passport, and that goes for anyone selling into the EU that has business in the EU. They will need to comply with the digital product passport compliance standards there. So they're actually using two of our products really together: the item level visibility for inventory through the supply chain, through the retail stores, as well as our digital product passport. That Mojix RFID solution, that item level visibility solution, feeds data also into the digital product passport. So not only are we getting data from the upstream raw material suppliers, say the cotton manufacturers, but we're also getting the shipping and receiving information and locations. And that allows us to also calculate the carbon impact, right? What was the distance it traveled? What was the method that it used to travel? And we can start to show some of that sustainability goals that Farm Rio as a brand are very focused on. All right, so when we look at those numbers that Bart showed, and 2024 was certainly a good year, but 2025 is going to be a bigger year. What can some retailers be talking about today? And I think I'll touch a little bit on where you really need to get started for item level visibility and digital product passport. Sharon will jump in as well and talk about just a couple of things on the Seagull product roadmap. that we're excited about and that are really going to drive the growth and really the the effectiveness of our solutions in the real-time environment. But so as retailers, if you really want to take advantage of Black Friday and Cyber Monday next year, this is really what you should be thinking about is the standardization of data, not just for item level visibility, but for digital product passports as well. How do you implement product identifiers, location identifiers like GLN within your product data and locationing data, really just the standardization of that. And we use GS1 standards. That is our preferred standardization here. And then labeling, of course. So labeling is critical to all of the solutions we do, right? Again, the label is not just a marking technology today. It's really a digital representation of that physical object and allows us to make changes to that digital twin in online and in the cloud, and that product is affected by those digital changes. So I'll hand it over to Sharon. I just wanted to share a couple of getting started points, but really around the standardization of the data. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. We're all like both clicking on the screen, as you can tell. Hope everyone has worked out their turkey super with all the Black Friday and Cyber Monday shopping workout. I did a little damage myself, contributed to that 74.4 billion that Bart brought up. I'm your closer today. I have the pleasure of walking you through our very last slide, which is also a high-level roadmap items that demonstrate the best parts of our Siegel and Mojix marriage. All of you here know BarTender and what it does for you and your organization. We are the industry leader in artwork and label management, and now we're bringing you item level visibility as a natural add-on to labeling. We have a three-step approach. Any product professionals in this virtual room know that it's the crawl, walk, run approach. To start up, we have serialization at scale with Amazon Transparency Connector. What does this mean? Well, turnkey, ready-to-use templates for your labels with integrated serialization. This will be both part of BarTender Cloud and on-prem. You'll be able to do it what you do today on the designer with the added oomph from this transparency connector. Step 2 is walk, adding traceability, genealogy for compliance purposes, serialization based on lots via labeling, tracking all steps all the way from harvesting to packing to delivery. Also providing suppliers in the view with the user interface to scan and track their supplies as part of the chain. Lastly, step 3, if you're following along, we are now running. We are spiffy toddlers. At this step, we have transparency as a service along with the digital product passport that Chris talked about. At this gate, we'll have the GS1 digital link support, digital product designer, and all the while making sure that we are adhering to the regulations and compliance, whether it be EU, North America, rules and regulations of any of the global markets that we serve. Oh, this concludes our vision of how you, customers of BarTender, can add item level visibility and digital product passports to your offering with ease. Thank you, and back to you, Bart.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much, Sharon. Great insights. We do have a few questions that came through. I think some things are really important. Chris mentioned some regulations, and obviously there's already regulations. It's a little bit of a different pace, depending what region you are in the world, and we've seen people logging on from South America, from Europe, from North America. So Chris, maybe can you kind of boil it down to maybe a few that people should really aware of some of the regulations that are coming like within the next year or so that are really impacting their supply chains? Because as you said, some of it you're doing for sustainability, some of it is for profitability, but some of it is also just to be compliant with regulations. So what are some of those regulations people should have at top of their mind?
Yeah, I think, especially in the EU, I think I mentioned that one, that is the ESPR Green New Deal. That's really driving the need for digital product passports in the EU. But not only that, and I mentioned Farm Rio, that brand sells in the EU, so it needs to comply. So any manufacturing, whether it's in the United States or in China, and they're selling in the EU and need to comply. Now, there isn't an equivalent in the US today, but there is a bill in the Senate today, which is pushing for a similar regulation around sustainability, which will require digital product passports. We do have regulation in food industry. So, when we talk about retail, we talked a lot about apparel retail, but in the food retail space, for QSR, there is some regulation coming from the FDA around food traceability as well.
Very good. Now, the other thing, I think, Sharon, with everything you show, right, through those 3 different phases, you're going to collect a lot of data. And I think data quality is very important, right? We hear a lot, and we didn't mention too much about it, but obviously a lot of people talking about AI, artificial intelligence. But obviously, I think it's also important that people think about the data and the quality of the data with the solutions they use, but then also how do they really kind of collect the data in one place? Can you maybe talk a little bit about how, from a bartender perspective, you look at that? Because it can be massive, right? People sell millions and millions of these products, so that label and catching all of that data across all of those different steps, you collect a lot of data.
Right. I think it's a great question. Data is a natural extension of what we can do with the marriage of bartender and Mojix. Today, it takes a lot of data from ERP systems, from any of the systems that you have today to power your label. So that's the same data plus a little bit more that can lend its way to item level visibility, to the digital product passports. So we want to make it easy for you as you're passing data through to create labels, store that for you in a safe way, gonna path it all the way through for you to know the path of the chain, right? Of how it started from, whether it was from the farm to the table, the farm to, packing and distributing, whatever that may be, that makes sense for your business. So yeah, that's how we will store it for you in the future of Bartender plus Mojix.
Right. I think another thing that comes to mind that we had a question about is really about, also from an IT perspective, is security. There was a large technology provider that last week got hit by a cyber attack, and maybe some of the folks on today's webinar are using some of their systems. So I think it's very important for companies as well to kind of make sure that these technology solutions that you're using obviously don't create additional kind of I would say vulnerabilities to your supply chain, because that's the thing, right, Sharon? I think we've become so kind of depending on the technology to use it. How do you make sure that the technology keeps up and running, and how can you make this closed circuit that you make it safe? Because bartender, there's literally thousands and thousands of customers that are depending on those systems to work. How do you deal with that?
So I just want to, quickly say that I am about 8 weeks into my job at Seagull. So I'm not quite the pro yet, but when it comes to best practices, we do make sure that data at rest, data in motion, data, it's all secured. We do partner with, the best third-party vendors out there when it comes to making sure our data is secure if we were to store it for you. I'm sure there's, I could answer it better if I'm, a little bit longer in this job, but sorry about that. That's what I can come up with right now.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I think we had one last question. Colby, I see you appearing on here as well. And it was just a question if we can share a little bit more details of the Seagull and Mojix marriage. The question specifically is, what does Mojix bring to the table to a Seagull customer or partner? Colby, you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, from a Seagull bartender perspective, right, we think about the depth and breadth of labeling solutions, both label creation, label management, label design, label hosting, right? So bringing visibility across the supply chain, right, as people are producing those labels, as we are thinking about digital product identity, right? We see all of these use cases around digital product passport. We see all these use cases around item level visibility. So, we're just kind of at the beginning of a lot of the use cases here as the two solutions come together. And we see a future where we make compliance, we make visibility into the supply chain, we make optimizing the supply chain so much easier. Understanding, right, from a supplier perspective, from a lot of the things, Bart, that you and Chris talked about, from all the component pieces that make up products and the product life cycle, you know, we see getting visibility into that so much easier. So excited to you know, bring you a glimpse into the roadmap, excited to bring you a glimpse into some of the use cases. And then Bart will also be at NRF in January, which again we were talking about. That seems like a long ways away, but it's right around the corner. So we'll be there showcasing kind of that better together story in January at NRF. We've got booths that are right across from each other. So if you are a retailer and if you're going to be at NRF in New York in January, we sure look forward to seeing you there as well.
Very good, Colby. And I think you already mentioned at the beginning, if people want to didn't miss part of this, we will send out the link to the recording of it. And then obviously, I think, Colby, they can either contact either BarTender or Mojix to find more information about the solution.
Absolutely. Yep. We'll follow up with the recorded presentation and get in touch with us directly if you'd like to spend some time with us talking about specific solutions or getting a product demo. And I do just want to take a minute to thank our presenters today. Bart, Sharon, Chris, fantastic job. Really appreciate the insights. Couldn't be more timely, coming right on the heels of Black Friday and Cyber Monday and Cyber Tuesday today, right? So again, thank you all for the presentation, and thank you for our attendees for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and attention and great questions, and we will follow up with you shortly. So thank you all. Bye, guys.